that I say is my own thoughts and opinions, not reflective of Old Pal or any of the companies I've worked previously for. So
make sure to put this disclaimer right in there.
Disclaimer.
Yeah.
Disclaimer.
Right.
These are my thoughts and opinions.
Yeah. But if you're ready, I think we could probably jump in.
Yeah, man.
All right, cool. Well, ladies and gents, welcome back to Articulate with Steve McJones. We have a very special guest, Vince Greco. Is that what it is?
Perfect pronunciation.
Your old pal, Vince. I love it. Dude.
Your old pal, Vince. Yep.
Yeah.
That we do.
Dude, I'm super excited about this
Hell yeah.
episode because I was just looking into just through the website, man. It's a rabbit hole. You know what I mean?
It is.
And I was like, it just reawakened like my my stoner. Like, I forgot that like weed was like a cornerstone of my personality up until like I was like 20. You know what I mean? At 21.
Hell yeah.
And that's how we all started. So yeah, I mean, obviously I want to get into like the nitty gritty of the company and everything with you. But like, how did you even like get started in this whole thing?
Yeah, it's go back about 3 years now. Finishing up school at Penn State. Brandywine is where I finished up. So just trying to get my marketing and management degree, business. Right. And COVID hit, so we all were kind of back home for school. I was already home. I was commuting, but lots of friends who might have been like athletes or what have you. Everybody was kind of back home, which was cool to see, but weird times.
Yeah. I strangely enjoyed COVID.
I think everybody did to a weird degree, in a strange way. With those responsibilities and whatnot. But just kind of like sat down and just thought to myself like hey, you've consumed the plant before. You kind of see the business around you. The medical program in Pennsylvania was like really ramping up at the time, being like 2 or 3 years into the program. So just seeing that kind of showed me that there's definitely like some future here. And so I actually needed an internship to graduate Penn State Brandywine.
Right.
And I just, I could have done any internship, as a kid in school, just look for something marketing, could be something in the city, could be something, it could be your friends, parents' business, something like that. But,
literally anything.
Like literally anything.
Where they'll sign the paper that says you did an internship.
Get the graduation requirement and be out there. But I chose to actually try and like dig deep and find something in the space, which was a huge challenge. I would say, it took me, maybe a couple weeks to actually find something just because, still at the time in 2020, COVID, maybe post-COVID now, not a lot of, people were hiring interns.
Right.
I found this company, though. I was 2 or 3 pages deep on Google searches.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like we all have been.
Yeah, you were there.
Just grinding. And I ended up falling on this website. It was like a blog post, so shout out to their SEO already kind of pulling me in. So I clicked on a blog and it was like our interns, and it was like an intern highlight for this cannabis marketing agency based out of Denver, Colorado, Puff Creative, shout out.
Yeah.
Really, really cool peeps. And I actually shot them through their contact us page on their website. Really? Not even a job posting. I was like, hey, I love the work, love the space. This is something that I'm interested in doing. Do you have any internships opened up? Within like a week or two time, we jumped on a call and solidified getting an internship with them. And so that was kind of my intro into the space.
Right.
Definitely like a not plant touching role, but.
Right. Well, I think that's like just a good lesson for anybody is like if you're looking for a job, it's not always like a job posting, but just like email a company that or like somebody that is like, hey, do you have an internship?
Yeah. It doesn't hurt to just, stick your neck out there and see what's going on. And then, just flip that into a part-time gig, kind of worked my way through graduation that spring and through the summer kind of stuck with them. And then found some new positions. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but that was kind of my first way into the space, just with the marketing degree and wanting to see if I could like put all that education and energy that I had, was pretty freshly, learning into, something that I, think is a future and, can enjoy.
Yeah, because I mean, it is, coming up, cannabis.
Still so new. It's like the Wild West.
It's still, definitely, which is something I definitely want to get into. But, part of what I was asking when I say, well, how do you start your journey? Is like, how did you get into weed?
Funny you say.
Yeah.
So like also something that is super closed off for a lot of people, I think, especially with my background, just being really heavily invested into athletics and sports coming up through, my whole life really. I had an older brother that played sports also, fell in his kind of foot tracks there. And then all of my friends playing sports. So we all were together doing that. And when you mix cannabis into that conversation, it's the thing that, they were telling you to be staying away from and, don't touch it. It leads you down these paths and that path.
Yeah.
But no, I think in high school, probably a couple buddies, like maybe early on in high school, like huddled around somebody's parents
Oh
probably
yeah.
weren't home,
Yeah.
stole their old pipe or something like that, and
Right.
experimented and probably didn't even feel any sort of like effects from it.
Right.
But it was just like the art of doing it and like knowing that you were like breaking the rules and like doing
Yeah.
something
I miss
wrong.
it sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the like
the sneaking around.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Feels good to do something not right.
Right, a little bit, yeah. It's just like was
In a
like I
strange
feel like
way.
it made the idea of like smoking like more of a journey, or like
Yeah.
an adventure. You know what I
Definitely.
mean? It's like you got to go somewhere. You got to get it from some
Oh.
guy you don't even know that's scary. You know?
100%.
Yeah.
And for me, I was always like the one that like never had to do the deals. It was like always
Right.
having I had the right friends, at
Right.
least the friends that were like ballsy enough to like go
Yeah.
out and do it. And then they would be like, all right, Vince, like, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
we got it. Let's make a Friday night out of this or something
Nice.
along those lines. But honestly, it really didn't come back into my life. Like I was never consistently using anything like that in high school. That was like first experience, just like,
Right.
it's the most gritty thing you can imagine, buying it from somebody you don't know.
Yeah.
And then actually picking it back up like towards the end of college, honestly,
Mm.
was kind of where it came back into my life. And I think it was really just kind of seeing the medical program in Pennsylvania,
Oh.
just like normalizing things around and,
Yeah.
more conversations being had around the plant and the industry itself
Right.
kind of sparked my interest again to, just kind of gravitate towards the space and the plant again.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I expected more of a stoner guy to show up at the door. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we all go home. We all go home. I don't wear it on my sleeve as much as
Okay.
some others do, and I think that's okay. It's totally up to you with how you
Yeah.
want to be. If you want to be loud about it, it's totally fine.
Right.
I work in the space, so I see people of all different walks of life, and that's
Yeah.
the beauty of it. I think is we all connect over the same thing. It's just a
Right.
matter of how hard we might lean into it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely, I agree, and I mean, like you said, you could do it however you want. So I mean, it's
Oh
just,
yeah, 100%.
but-
We've all had our moments.
right. Somebody told me once that I have a stoner dialect, and I'm like, okay, that's cool, I guess.
Or when you said stand-up comedy too, which I think is amazing. Like there's so much crossover with cannabis and culture, so many different types of culture, pop culture, sports, comedy,
Yeah,
those are the types of things that, half the crowd is probably under the influence of something. And I don't mean like, we're not talking like all the stuff here, but, alcohol, cannabis,
Oh,
those are the
100%.
things that are obviously, closely associated.
yeah. You want to talk about nitty gritty?
Yeah, right, like-
Seeing the underside of the comedy belly in Philadelphia, dude.
I imagine, man. I imagine. But that's really cool.
But yeah, so I mean, of course, I want to continue like on your journey within this
Yeah,
company and everything.
sure.
But just again, jumping into like me doing my own research on the website and whatnot
Yeah.
was like so much fun for me because it was almost like it seems like it's such like you said, it's the Wild West still,
Yeah.
but in a sense, it's also like it's more intense than being like almost like a sommelier, like
Yeah.
a wine
Yep.
connoisseur because there's like so much. Everything hasn't even been defined yet, so it's like you don't even know how much everything affects. There's stuff
Still a lot of research to be done,
Right.
things of that nature, if that's where you're kind of heading with that. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I think just like getting education out to the consumers as well. Like,
Yeah.
by now it's like you start drinking in high school, you might get sick, your first few
Yeah.
times because you're just
I
being
think that's the goal.
a lunatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Bro, I threw up
Yeah,
so much yesterday.
Right. But it's like then you kind of become a smarter consumer that way, because of your experience, whether it's good or bad. So
Yeah.
I'm not here to say like I think personally like I enjoy craft beer and alcohol and things of that nature,
Yeah.
as well as I do cannabis. Now, have I ever woke up with a hangover from cannabis? Absolutely not.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that everybody, you can still be a smart consumer. There's still lots to learn out there, and everybody's
Yeah.
system is different, and being able to react to the plant. Something might make you fall asleep, might make me want to go for a run.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and that's
or-
kind of what I was gearing more towards was
Mhm.
the idea of like when you enter like a new community. For me,
Yeah.
like with stand up, learning like the punchline setup, all these different twists and turns of it. Within weed is like they have all this vocabulary that like I had
Yeah.
no idea about. And some of it's more like agriculture based, but a lot of it is also just solely cannabis based.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
So I just wanted to ask, what are your favorite weed terms? Because
Ooh.
one of my favorites is Scooby Snacks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or
Without
like-
the filter in your J.
Yeah,
The Scooby
the
snacks.
Scooby Snacks, dude. The dab
Yeah.
sweats. Dab
Ooh,
sweats.
That's an interesting one.
Those are
Not a
scary
big,
ones.
not a huge concentrate guy.
Too much.
But
Way too much.
yeah, there's plenty associated with that, I'm sure. Dab sweats. That's a
Dab
funny one.
sweats.
Let me think to myself here.
Yeah.
I just love like the words that people throw around, like when I was working in a dispensary, which is something that we can get to. That was like my phase after the marketing position that I jumped into just to get more face to face. But we had to be a little bit careful with how we communicate with patients, which is, totally fine with me. It's medicine for a lot of people, so I would, hear people say, this is so dank, this is fire, gas, all the adjectives. For me, I have to like reset those expectations for people on the sales floor because, the person next to you might really be having a bad day. So, it's kind of like hearing all those terms and like the culture behind like how people describe weed in of itself, I think is like one of my favorite things about it.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, within that, you had to like adjust to like customers that maybe seemed a little bit like they weren't trying to get on like the millennial talk or like the Gen Z talk or something.
Or it's be like, oh, I got so high from that and be like, oh, you got medicated. Nice. Like,
what is the professional term for fire or gas?
I think just like, it's funny to say, just like you might even like deter the conversation to like look at the testing, for example, on the plant. Be like, kind of backtrack and be like, okay, like let's think here, like why does this person think that it's fire? And I'll look at, maybe you go to the testing or you see the terpenes, which is something that we can dive down into.
I like that one.
Which is, something that's still being explored and researched. But, you might reset those expectations by like actually looking at what the plant or that particular strain has to offer. And then, maybe, reference some scenarios of how it might make them feel instead of just fire and gas and things like that.
Which again, I had no idea because, when I was looking at the page, it was trying to break down sativa and indica and everything. And like, that's not even like the first level of like how they categorize things. It was like cultivates or something like that.
Yeah, cultivar. Is probably what you were seeing. And this is something that I still have a lot of work to do. The plant is so deep. There's lots of understanding behind it. But yeah, indica sativa hybrid. A lot of people say it's a wash nowadays. And, you just kind of look at those terpenes. A lot of things have been crossed and bred over and over and over again. So you get to that point where everything is almost a hybrid. As you kind of hear that thrown around a lot. And
a melting pot, if you will.
But yeah, that's something. So you have to kind of see what each strain has to offer at this point to maybe truly get a better grasp of how it's going to make you feel. And then, like I said, not long ago, something might make me, want to go for a run, might make you want to eat some snacks or take a nap or something like that. So
I feel that. So you went from the marketing thing directly into a dispenser. Like, what was the?
So I was doing marketing work. The marketing work itself, not to dig too back into that, was more graphic design, event, graphics, social media management. And then kind of fell down like a rabbit hole of my own because I love media and film and photography and things like that. So that actually helped me kind of like explore my own personal side of
the website for this.
No.
Okay, because I was going to say that stuff is crazy.
Anybody that some talented minds behind it, I'm sure. So just being able to kind of learn some of those tools with Puff Creative, and then apply them to things that I liked, like going to a baseball game and taking photos or, sports photography and things of that nature. So, that was really cool. But yes, to get to your question of getting into the dispensary, I just wanted something face to face. Working in a food family and coming up in those restaurants my whole life, oftentimes I didn't need to cook. I was never on the grill, on the oven, from time to time if need be. But most of the time, it was a lot of help for customer service, just kind of running the register, running the front of the house, which is, common, I think, in family businesses for, young, kids to kind of follow up into.
Village Ice Cream Parlor, that's where I started.
There you go. And you still use those skills today, I'm sure, to some degree. So, just needing that, like, personal interaction, I think, on the daily was a bit more needed for me, just being kind of young and energetic, and a lot of the team being spread out across the country. It was a remote role, the Puff Creative job. So, I think just getting some more like face-to-face and in-person, interaction.
I feel that. I was worked remote for a while, and I was like, I need to see people. I'm going to lose my mind.
Seriously, just seeing, seeing your face in the reflection of your screen.
Oh, it's too much.
Sometimes can be a little defeating.
I love those days where you work fully remote, and then you like hang out with a friend later, and you're like, I have to remember how to talk to people again.
You were like in your PJs all day. You're like getting cleaned up real quick. That is the one thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. It has its perks. Our Mondays at Old Pal are like our admin days. So everybody's kind of home officed up. We're not in the field running around. So it's kind of just a day that everybody can not relax, but it's just a little bit of, you're at your own pace to, lay out your week or take care of any admin work that's ahead of you. But
nice.
Yeah, being in a dispensary was fun. It was. I definitely found myself there and realized even further that I can grow this career in cannabis.
So did you like start at like bud tender type of
bud tender, and that's still what I reference. A lot of them too. Sometimes they're called other things, and oftentimes they are. Patient care consultants or things of that nature. Just to it's medically based. So
right. Professional bud tender seems a little too fun.
Now when we go rec or adult use, you might see that thrown around a whole lot more. But you start base level. I was working in reception. I was working in the sales floor, the vault, which is inventory. Sometimes you're sitting on the security cameras because that's another big thing. It's
that's probably so similar to like mom and pop, like retail.
Yeah, it was, and the company itself also, because there are a lot of big multi-state companies in Pennsylvania. That's something that you see a lot. So companies that operate in other medical and recreational markets across the country have operations here too. But I actually was working for a Pennsylvania-owned chain of dispensaries, which was really cool. I felt kind of at home.
Oh,
and because you have that, you can get to the top and ask any questions, not to work your way to the top, but if you need anything, resources are there for you. You don't have to fight through.
If it's a small business, you're the owner. It probably pops in every once in a while.
Every so often, at least we had somebody from the company just to come down and check on us, or even just hang out and show face. And it's good to get that FaceTime with people. So that was really big for me to kind of make the transition into the space as well, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. So from there, how did you kind of progress?
Just took a lot of my skills that I guess I learned, working in customer service, and then just having such this passion for the plant. And I always say, with my father opening his pizza shops and hustling there, and then my mother being ICU bedside nurse for over 30 years now, I have like that level of hustle and that level of care and compassion. And then cannabis in of itself is like, that is what like retail cannabis is essentially like. Like anybody that has worked in food, if you work in cannabis or you have passion about it and you want to work in a dispensary, like you're probably going to thrive most times.
Wow.
A lot of people, bartenders, people that work scooping ice cream, slinging pizzas. It really does not matter what it is. Just the art of having those people skills and those service skills. And then having a passion such as cannabis in the plant. You're going to do well. So just applying yourself. I loved the vault and being able to organize product.
The vault?
The vault,
What is the vault?
The vault
is a scary term.
It's a very scary place now. It's actually one of the more fun places you can imagine. It's definitely a place that needs to be organized to limit, discrepancies and things of that nature. But
where they keep
storage,
all the...
inventory room. And orders would go out there through a little like slot in the window, so I'd be able to pack up orders when a slip would come through and go on like a little hunt. And there's a lot of stuff going on back there, so you really do need to be focused in to make sure that the right products are going out. But that was fun for me just because I like to have my things in a row oftentimes. So being able to get paid to just organize stuff and just have fun with a cool store team. Was,
you get paid to fulfill your like OCD tendencies or whatever.
100%. And then be around all that product and be able to pick up labels and learn new things about certain strains, because the more time you spend in the vault, say I need to run out and take a patient, hey, they're looking for, X type of effects. Well, I just looked at 10 different products in the back. I might have a suggestion off the top of my head now. So there was a lot of crossover in the store.
And that's probably where you started to learn a lot of the different types of just plants. Like it all comes back to the plant.
100%. And there's people that have worked in cannabis. I bumped into somebody back in February out in Pittsburgh at a store, and this individual was working for a flower shop his whole life. And so now we're talking about like different phenotypes of roses and like different genetics for like roses and whatnot. And it's like a lot of crossover and sort of the same process from what I understand. I don't want to speak, out of turn here, but it's just that opened my eyes though, just like from an agricultural perspective that, there's so much similarity behind a lot of these plants. Obviously cannabis creates psychoactive effects. Not every plant does that, but the art of, genetics and what have you.
Yeah, definitely. So then you took that knowledge and decided that you wanted to do more with it?
Yeah, I just think that I was ready to sort of break through the store level and see what else was out there. And there are oftentimes that I visit a lot of stores and try and get out and visit my accounts and see how the store teams are doing and how product is selling. And there's times where you want to get behind the counter and take care of a patient or two because it's fun. It's you don't know what's coming through the door. It could be an elderly person, could be, somebody in their 20s or, younger.
Anybody
Not
can
that
walk
that's a
through that
problem,
door,
like it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's just everybody's like kind of like their own little project.
Okay.
Whether, you're trying to fit that little puzzle piece into their life, which is very cool to do. Ultimately, like when I was bud tending, it was just like, how can I take the guesswork out of this person's equation if they're new to the plant?
Right.
And then oftentimes you get those patients that are a bit more well-versed and have been using the plant, maybe for 25, 30 years, and they're just here to get their stuff and bounce and get back to their life. But yeah, that was the unique part. You just never know what's walking through that door. It's like a game show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. I didn't even, that's another part that I didn't even really consider was like how much the people are involved in it too.
Yeah.
And again, I think the stoner community in general is a very, very welcoming, open community. And like you said, anybody can walk through that door.
Yep.
And anybody can be a stoner that doesn't necessarily look like a stoner.
True.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about with like even just like professional terms. So it's like if somebody walks in, with like a suit, and they're kind of like looking like this, it's like, you don't want to be like, yo, this shit's gas, bro.
Right. You read the room.
Yeah.
And part of that also just working all those customer service days, knowing how to like read a room and handle people in different situations and like constantly be on like the de-escalate side.
Yeah.
And not like trying to like ruffle anybody's feathers or anything like that. But there really are. Like you see people roll in with suits, that are getting done work for the day and like, not to be like wrong like that, but sometimes you might be like, I can't believe this person's gonna go home and like use this product or like go like fire up some dabs or something like that.
Yeah,
so
that's crazy.
And there's no problem with that. Like that's just the beauty of the plan and like just like the amount of different consumers and
So how'd you get involved in Old Pal?
Old Pal, yeah. So to go actually back to my marketing position, I was mentored. John Shute is his name. Shout out John Shute.
John Shute.
Huge role in my cannabis career. Like
Really?
I definitely owe John a lot, just like professionally, just
Like
knowing
a
how to
mentor.
handle. Yeah, he groomed me throughout the internship. I was like, do I name drop?
Yeah.
Screw it. So
It's not like you're talking.
No, he's the man. Yeah, he's an absolute legend. But he was like, Vince, check out some of these accounts because I was getting into social media management, which is a very unique world in the marketing world because of limitations and what have you. But he's like, I want you to check out this company called Old Pal and just kind of see their flow of their grid.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure you saw as well. It's just like really well put together and creative and groovy and on and on and on. But that was funny to see because I had like been watching them from afar from a little bit since
you
then.
already knew about
So
it.
yeah, which is weird to think, but still wasn't, here in Pennsylvania. They weren't here yet in Pennsylvania until 2022 last year, I think. Last year is when products launched. So and I was still in the dispensary at that time. But yeah, they actually came and took us out for an offsite event. So
where at?
it was in Paoli.
Oh, okay.
Which is where the store was. So
Yeah.
we got out for a little offsite event. That's oftentimes what kind of happens in the medical market here is you can't really get on site. It's very, very sterile in medical, some of the rules behind it.
Right.
So say I wanted to go like give an education session, for example, to some bud tenders to just get them more well-versed on our product and whatnot.
Right.
I can't even really do that at the store level. It's not legal by the DOH.
Wow.
So which is weird to think about.
Yeah.
But just to go beyond that. So we were offsite. That's how they're able to get around it. So they were launching their products, wanted to get some store teams, stoked about having it on shelves, let them, try it maybe. So, samples come through and then we get taken out to dinner and I get to meet my buddy who is already working in my now role. So it was actually a friend of mine that was in the role before me. And then his boss flew in from California, my now boss.
Right.
And, we all just kind of hit it off and had some great conversations and got to know each other. And, eventually it just got to a point where, the store team that, my team was so stoked to be out, enjoying their time with these people and have a break from their day at the store level.
Right.
I just made some good connections with, obviously, my good friend Ryan and my now boss, who was from California. And when it was time for Ryan to move on to a new position, just through a great recommendation, and we all kind of came back together, and the rest is kind of history. So it was really just a good connection, ultimately.
Right, but those networking classes in college definitely paid off.
Yeah, and it just talking to people, like just don't be afraid to talk to anyone is just kind of how I've always, I don't want to say raised, but just like approach situations. Like, what do you have to lose? Like today, I we've never met each other. Sitting down talking to you and just being able to do things like that is where you grow. So it was really an interesting kind of process. It doesn't always happen like that. But just so happy and thrilled to be in the position and have had so much fun.
So I mean, what do you specifically do for?
So we call it a retail execution coordinator.
Okay.
That's kind of the longer term. Some people might just look at it as a brand manager, brand rep. I do Pennsylvania and Maryland.
Okay.
And essentially, it's event coordination, so on-site, off-site event coordination. That could be pop-ups or education sessions. Taking store teams out to connect and educate them as well there. And then even some more deeper ways of going through the process of like sales.
Right.
Being able to speak with buyers and have those conversations and relay them back to our partner sales team here in Pennsylvania, trade marketing, visual merchandising. It really kind of checks a lot of boxes. Ultimately, like field sales, field marketing is how I sort of mark it up for people that I'm trying to explain it to. But it's like for me, having like a lot of
mark it up. You could say dumb it down.
Dumb it down, mark it up. But like that's essentially the way of the role. And it just gives me a lot of freedom to like go down a few different avenues at once, which is really unique. I'm not in a box at all, I don't think. And I think they would be happy to hear that and know that. There's definitely a level of trust, I would say, being with the company for a few months now that they're in California, I'm in Pennsylvania, just being open with communication and making sure that, everything is kind of laid out in front of us before we go and attack certain things is really important because of that distance from each other. But it's been really, really cool, being on my little island here in Pennsylvania and Maryland.
You get to run your own
thing. And it's definitely a lot of, it's not like I'm running the thing. We have amazing partners, incredible partners, and their sales teams and their production and supply chain and everything. You go up and down the line, and it's really just the way that our teams work together is how the job gets done ultimately.
Are you involved in like the journal part at all, dude? The journal was like, that was the rabbit hole for me on the website. There's like a journal that they have like all.
It's like the little blog. Is it like the blogs? Essentially, but they're like journals.
But it kind of comes back to that idea that you were talking about like education, even. You know what I mean? Like one of the terms was like greening out, which was one of the fun terms that I had. But I was like reading through one of the things is like green out, and it was like in bold, and I was like, oh, they have like an article describing greening out.
Yeah, we lean in pretty hard to the cannabis culture because we're allowed to based on this, the spaces that we operate in California there, which is, ultimately where a lot of people feel like the culture of cannabis was like, brought to light.
Could see that.
So that's definitely the vibe of the brand is shareability and having shared experiences with your old pals, with your pals. You probably read it off the website. I mean, I just take it right off the website. An ode to the glory days of cannabis. That's what you really should feel. With the old pal branding.
It's very Tegrity Farms. You know what I'm talking about?
South Park.
It's very, very Tegrity Farms. You're like, old pals where you sit around and smoke with the old people.
With your pals. But that's what you should feel. You want to bring back those classic times of bringing your community together. And that's cannabis has brought so many people together. I've seen it, recently, just like people that don't know each other, and next thing you know, they're just like, sharing stories over a joint and laughing or connecting or whatever it is. Because
that goes back to like what I was talking about with like making it an adventure or like an experience with somebody. It shouldn't. For me, it's like, of course, it's easy to like just have a pen, you get like a little high, like that's great.
Fair enough.
But like the idea of like rolling and like meeting people somewhere and like having music play and doing the whole thing is just so important.
Yeah, they lean in heavily into creativity and the culture behind creativity. Artists and we have people on our team that are like crazily musically inclined and so good at art.
Sounds. You heard
so
of
cool.
Pot sounds?
Yeah, right.
I came up as like Pet Sounds, but Pot Sounds by the Baked Boys. You know, but it's literally look at this. I don't know. It's like they hook up like synthesizers and like machines that send electricity through a marijuana plant. And then it makes music.
It's crazy.
It's wild.
Really, really cool. And I think like those are the kinds of experiences that like you offer to consumers and even patients here in Pennsylvania to like just like give them an extra step beyond just the day-to-day of like using the plant. They're able to connect, like, let me hear what the strain sounds like that I'm consuming. That's like really, really cool.
You always hear about playing music to plants, but you don't hear about the plants playing you music.
That's big.
That's
I've
trippy.
seen that even at farms that I have visited. That you go into, and there's tons of cannabis plants there, and there's like cool jazzy music going on.
What happens if you play the plants' music back to them?
Whoa, plantception.
Yeah,
big yields.
Yeah,
big happy plants.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, they start to form like a Woodstock together, just the plants. That's crazy.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, no, but that again, like just going down that rabbit hole, the fact that they have that like focus on creativity. I mean, the seed bomb, it was like the first thing that popped up where it was like not only creativity, but just like the community aspect of the whole thing. And, the plant is important. The plant is part of the earth. We need to create a safe space for, greenery, whether that be weed or just trees. And shit
perfect little segue for what we've just been kind of doing too.
Yeah.
We just got past 420, obviously, the big holiday, weed Christmas.
Busy time for you guys.
Busy time for anybody that's in the field or in a cannabis business. But yeah, we leaned into Earth Day actually a little bit more this year. I'm not sure if you saw any of the marketing, which was really cool to do. We're all really green people. No pun there, but it was cool. Some of the assets we had, like our marketing and design team, just completely knocked it out of the park. I also give them a ton of credit too. Anytime I go into the field, whether it's just to talk to patients or consumers or buyers or I don't know anybody store level, talking about the brand is so easy because of the assets and the design and what they do behind it. It's just so easy for a lot of people to latch onto, which is really cool.
Yeah, so many things on there.
Yeah, but back to the plant sounds. That's definitely something that took off. I think I saw a lot with like mushrooms and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Just out in the woods or what have you, people going up and hooking up their little wires to them and
do you remember
transmitting.
the original Avatar when they like hook up to the plant and they like start to see like the heartbeat or the pulse or whatever? That's what made me think.
That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, just creating those like experiences beyond just like the day-to-day usage is really cool. Like we've done playlists for strains and things of that nature.
Yeah, I saw that. That's great.
But yeah, for Earth Day, we had like cool assets. We had seed, like butterfly garden seed packets that we were able to hand out.
Oh, that's cool.
Compostable like seed cards. You can plant the card itself and it has seeds embedded within it. So it'll like plant some sprouts, some flowers maybe. So yeah, that was really cool to kind of see, and it was a good little push that we did across the country in every state that we're operating in. So
yeah, I'm sure you got great results from it too.
Yeah, people loved it. People love because it gives them a project to do when they go home. Getting a packet of seeds. Maybe some people haven't. Maybe they have gardens already. Maybe they have been thinking about planting a flower garden for some time. So like giving them a chance to just like go out in nature and kind of connect with the
Stoner
plant.
Initiative.
Yeah, 100%.
I love that. That was like a big thing on Reddit a while ago. It was like go to your. It was like it's funny that it's like there's like r/marijuana enthusiasts.
Yeah.
But that's only for like actual trees. r/trees is for like stoners because they like switched them up. It's kind of fun. But in trees they did a stoner initiative and it was like go to your smoke spot and show us you cleaning it up, and there would be like posts of people with garbage bags full of just little trash and like around their parks, their little hikes that they go on up to.
It's a super caring space.
It is, yeah.
As deep as you go, you'll find it. You'll find it somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
Whether it's environmental or just like people skills or what have you. Yeah, it's really caring.
Yeah, and that one of the articles that I read is like a thing that fosters creativity and things like that is a good atmosphere, it's a good space, a good environment. I did want to ask, do you have a flow state? That was one of the things that I read about on there. How do you get into your flow state with this?
That's a really good question.
It's probably just talking to people, right?
Yeah. And you know what, though? Like, you get up on those Mondays some days, like I mentioned, your admin day.
Yeah.
And it's, you just develop your plan ahead of you. But say you have a call that day. It's like, okay, like, how do I reset those expectations and, like, prepare for this call, right? To get into, like, that flow state or, to build out a schedule for the next week or two. Not really sure what's going to, like, lie ahead. But I think just, like, I'm an early riser.
Right.
Most of the time.
Okay,
so just,
good
like,
for you.
Getting up, maybe just
I'm
like,
jealous.
yeah, right. I like being up early in the morning. It's peaceful. So maybe even just like getting like a couple minutes outside in the morning. That could literally just be like a drive, like, going anywhere, like going to pick up breakfast or something, like just getting out and like seeing the sun come up. Like, I think that's big for a lot of people, and like just like seeing, the day start, kind of kicks me off. Not to give you like such a vague answer of like how I get into my flow state.
No,
but like,
no, it's a vague question to be fair.
That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just like being prepared properly.
Right.
I've like as an athlete too, like you're preparing for practice, your body,
True.
you're preparing for games. As like a pitcher too with baseball players. So like,
Yeah.
you might pitch every like 3 or 4 games or 3 or 4 days, depending on the way the schedule looks. So it's like every week is a project. So
Right.
how can I prepare myself to,
Right. Almost like a little tradition for yourself to like
yeah, absolutely. Get into that routine.
get
And
the
then like,
Pavlovian thing going.
yeah, and then there's there's days or weeks that you're like more road heavy and you're just
Right.
like driving or getting to more places, so might be a little bit out of your environment, or you're posted up at a hotel and it's like, okay, like definitely not in my environment, but like how
Yeah.
can I make small tweaks and get myself back into where I'm
Right.
in my flow. So
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's cool, man. That's
yeah,
great.
we're learning, we're
We're
getting
learning.
there.
Well, yeah,
We're
so I
getting
mean,
there.
kind of just to like tie it all together is
Mhm.
like one thing that I found from the website, but I can get from you as well is like going against stereotypes and
Mhm.
trying to make the cannabis industry more than just like a stoner
Yeah.
thing. You know what I mean? And spreading actual information like that. Like one of the things that they said when I was reading up on sativa indica is like there was obviously another level to that. And so when you're selling to somebody, it's not just about like the effects, and because effects have different effects on different individuals, you
Yep.
know? So it's like what it seems like Old Pal is really trying to do is educate people and make sure that there's not some sort of stigma surrounding everything, and moving past that as a society. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they lean in hard to the cannabis culture,
Yeah.
and it's unapologetic in the most tasteful way possible.
Right. Yeah.
And like I referenced earlier, like just based on some of the surroundings we're in, and like those like classic cannabis, cultures in California, for example, is the easy one to go back to.
Yeah.
I mean, you can lean in out there.
Yeah.
I love to say like lean in, like because they really can
Yeah.
with the consumers out there, and just like the fact that it's one of the best environments in the country to be growing the plant itself.
Right.
So you see a lot of individuals out there that have been around the plant, have been using the
Yeah.
plant for a long time. So
And
it's
love
it's
it.
it's more so like communicating the message, yeah, and love it exactly.
Yeah.
More so communicating the message in markets that might not be ready to lean in so hard.
Yeah.
Like Pennsylvania, for example, or you said you're from Ohio, which is a
Right.
great segue to Pennsylvania and Ohio. It's
Barely
sterile,
medical.
medical, sterile compared to you look at some marketing assets or even strain names. For example, like ice cream cake is now just ICC because it's
Oh.
appealing to children. I don't make the rules,
Yeah.
but cake like fruity names or anything that appeals to like food. Characters, like we have a little character. I'm not sure if you've ever seen the Old Pal Shepherd.
No.
It's our little dude.
Little mascot.
Yeah, really
Nice.
cool. Just like a cool way to kind of tie the brand in. But that is not allowed in Pennsylvania and even in Maryland too. So like a lot of the assets change from state to state. So there is that level right now of how can we still be this really rad California brand that puts out a quality product, but communicate it in as close to the same manner as we do in a state like California or Arizona, Massachusetts, areas that are able to be 21 plus adult use.
Yeah.
Which is, where you're able to see less regulations, at least from a marketing perspective. It's not like we're out here just, growing plants and throwing it in bags without, seeing what it has to do with it. But yeah, that's definitely a unique one.
You're right.
The assets, the marketing, and how it kind of bends and shapes to the market that it's residing in.
Right.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy. That is like
Obstacles.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's such a kick-ass, marketing team,
Mhm.
design team, and then partner team in Pennsylvania. They obviously have a great basis for what is allowed and what isn't allowed. So being
Yeah.
able to kind of lean on them because we're in so many different markets,
Yeah.
and being
You work with like lawyers all the time, dude.
I personally have
Yeah,
never
he said nope.
seen anything like that.
Right.
But oh yeah, I mean obviously every business has attorneys involved. I don't know to what degree.
Right.
That's kind of out of my focus,
Sure.
but. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're, I mean, how about this? If you're talking to a lawyer because of your marketing assets,
Then you're
probably doing something wrong.
right.
So yeah, it's just a matter of giving them ample time to like develop the right assets and things of that nature, so that it can be approved first round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. I wouldn't even like consider, like it's so hard
It's
to
weird.
like think about, like, especially in depth when, people that aren't involved in the industry at all, it's just like you see weed and not weed states, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there's
Yeah.
like a little bit of a line with like medicinal and like where does that cross?
Yeah, and
all
it's
that
it's getting so mature too. Like what are we 2023 now? So we're roughly 5 years into the medical program here in Pennsylvania.
stuff. Right.
I mean, any consumer in a 5-year market is gonna get I don't want to use the word smart, but just like more educated.
Yeah.
They can sniff out the BS.
Yeah.
The Reddit forum in PA, there is one for the medical program. I can show it to you.
Yeah.
And it's actually a really good place for people to like find product that they might be looking for or get reviews and things of that nature. So it has gotten to that point where there is a community here in Pennsylvania. Not that there wasn't before, but it's just kind of more, highlighted on something such as Reddit. So it's, I don't know, is there 40,000 people as a part of it right now, which is a good chunk of people.
Yeah.
To kind of pass around feedback to other patients. So
right.
Yeah, it's the market itself is maturing a bit. It's just like how far can we go until this medical bubble pops and it's adult use?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully soon, right?
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
It'd be cool. It'd be cool to see your home state, my home state at least, go recreational. It's something that I don't think like anybody would really even think about. There's not even any shops in my town, but like the day that I see a dispensary open up in my hometown will be a cool moment, I'm sure, if it ever happens. But,
it's just embracing something that you love so much and have seen like such positive effects from.
100%.
Well, maybe one day.
Yeah, maybe one day. And even just like sports too, like just thinking about like all like not just being so like loud about cannabis my whole life, and just like being an athlete first and like doing the right thing and like the DARE program,
right? Yeah.
Not that like we leaned into that. I think everybody kind of was a little questioning about that.
Yeah, everyone was like, weed though.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like a lot of my friends will be stoked as well, like the friends that aren't even in the industry and kind of had the same, upbringing as me, heavy athletes, but still loved cannabis. And, now you see it's becoming more normalized when it's recreational, maybe they'll be able to have their moment to feel comfortable to, express the people that they've been using the plant. So for me, you have these conversations with your friends' parents and they're like, what are you doing, Vince? And I'm like, well, and it's always perceived well because, they know who I am and, what I'm about. But it's I think a hurdle for some people that I have eventually or, finally gotten over, which is nice to just like feel comfortable in your space. And
the stigma, for sure.
It's real.
Well,
like,
I mean, it's, I got to tell people that I'm a stand-up comic sometimes, or like an actor. You go, especially if it's somebody like in, some... well, like very traditional area. Yeah. Then it's like, oh, you're doing okay. Good luck with that. You know what I mean?
And just like a lot of our upbringings too around the plant, like just being told not to use it. So now it's like, well, I'm working in it. So there's some sort of like probably intersection. Not that you have to use the plant to be in the space. That's like not a prereq at all.
Yeah.
But they might
smoke a joint in the job interview.
Yeah, I'm sure that has happened in some places. But yeah, like that. I don't know. I would hate for like my friends' parents who are like that hate the plant to like hear that I'm working in it, and now because I'm friends with their child, like that's a direct like correlation that they think that I'm like poisoning them or like feeding them all this wrong stuff. So it's just weird right now, but that's why we're having these conversations.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. 100%.
And I appreciate you, driving out to have this conversation.
100%.
Yeah, definitely.
Philly, I love getting down to Philly.
Yeah.
I haven't always been a big city person.
Really?
Just being from Delco, it's like you kind of get the best of both worlds. Like I could drive and be on a farm in 15 minutes or drive and be, here in, another 15 or 20. So it's like Delco kind of has that like weird intersection of like just like hardworking people and its own like little cities within, which is cool.
Yeah. And then you can come out here and experience
really
the
just
city life if you want.
Blow up the city life and go to sports games or clubs and bars.
Or riot downtown,
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think it's a good spot to wrap it up.
Cool.
Plugs and everything. Follow your old pal Vince on Instagram. It's this old pal.
Yeah, old pal.
Too.
Yep.
They have a newsletter and everything.
Yep.
Any other things that you might think are relevant right now? Newsletter. You guys have like a promotion with an e-bike I saw on the website.
Yep. If you might still time to join.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out for that. That'd be pretty cool to win. But no, just keep an eye out for us. We're obviously still growing along the East Coast here. So if you're in a recreational market, hopefully you're able to enjoy some old pal products.
Right.
But if we're here in Pennsylvania, you're gonna need that card for at least a little bit longer. But yeah, exciting stuff to come for sure. Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, cool, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cheers.
All right.
Love it.
Wrap it up.